What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Z's Political Arrow, the sharpest channel for unapologetic political analysis. And oh boy, do we got a nail-biter one today. Candace Owens and Piers Morgan. This isn't your average debate. Piers tries to corner Candace on her stance about Israel, U.S. foreign policy, and vaccine. But Candace doesn't flinch. She fires back with facts, passion, and brutal honesty, exposing the double standards and hypocrisy of Mr. Piers' arguments. Let's jump right in and see what Candace has to say.
Piers Morgan came right to the table and tried to pretend that it was suspicious that I didn't tweet for days when a terrorist attack happened on a foreign country's soil. Take a listen.
And here's where I'm just curious about your tweeting through this procedure, this whole war, because on October the 7th, you didn't tweet anything. You didn't tweet anything on October the 8th. And October the 9th, you tweeted, so much world peace ever since we got the orange man out of office. So glad the adults are back in charge. A lot of people say, well, if you care this much about innocent people being killed, why didn't you say anything when 1,200 people were massacred to death in the most brutal, barbaric manner in this awful terror attack by Hamas, and nearly 7,000 more were wounded, some of them catastrophically and irreparably? Why did that not compel you to say anything?
Well, first and foremost, Israel's a foreign country, so typically I talk about topics that have to do with America. Secondly, you're only quoting my Twitter feed. I'm also on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram. I also had a daily podcast in which I did respond directly about what happened and called the events horrific. Multiple times, said what Hamas did was absolutely horrific. So you're using a snapshot of my Twitter feed where you're acknowledging that I didn't tweet for days to suggest that I didn't have anything to say about what had happened. Now, to be clear, I am consistent on all matters. I do not want America involved whatsoever in anything that is happening in Israel. I don't want my dollars sent over to Israel. We should not be supporting Israel. Obviously, Thomas Massey has done a lot of work showing how it doesn't even make economic sense that we have so much debt and yet we're sending money over to support Israel. And the biggest issue, by the way, that I have with Israel in talking about them being above reproach is the fact that they are supplying the arms to murder Christians, okay? In Armenia, the oldest Christian country in the world, and yet nobody talks about that. For whatever reason, it seems to be the circumstance that when Jewish people die in Israel, it's wall-to-wall coverage. But when Christians die all over the world, nobody talks about it. Everyone wants to correlate everything to World War II. Everyone wants to talk about Adolf Hitler, and rightfully so, he was a horrific person. But nobody wants to talk about Henryk Yagoda, right? Nobody wants to talk about the Bolsheviks. Nobody wants to talk about the Christian Holocaust. I am tired of the media, exhausted of the media not speaking about what is happening to Christians all around the world.
Hot damn, son. Right here is where Piers trips on his own hypocrisy. Candace doesn't owe anyone a timeline of her tweets or apology. More importantly, Israel isn't America. She keeps her focus on U.S. interests only, something the mainstream media loves to ignore. Candace fires back how Israel is always glorified in the media coverage, while atrocities against Christians globally are swept under the rug. When Jewish people die in Israel, it's wall-to-wall coverage, but when Christians die all over the world, it's crickets. Why? Let's be real. She has a point. Israel's special treatment in Western media isn't about morality. It's about political and economic alliances. Piers won't touch that because it doesn't fit his narrative.
And it is especially horrific while at the exact same time that it is happening, the slaughter of Christians in Armenia, the arms being supplied by Israel, that the media turns the other way and says, oh, okay, but what about what's happening in Israel? So you know what I'm asking for? Actual equality. Okay, because it seems like this is like a special category, the special relationship that we have. I'm a Christian first, okay? And so my concerns are going to be with what's happening to Christians all around the world, because it is us. We are the #1 most persecuted religion in the world. And all Christians watching this need to realize the time is now to start speaking up, because we have been silenced about the things that are happening to us for a very long time. And the media is very clearly not our friend. When there is wall-to-wall coverage of Christians being killed in Armenia, Christians being killed in Nigeria, and the treatment of Christians in America and all across the globe today, then you ask me if I will use my platform and I will use my voice to speak about what's happening in Israel. How about that? So why is he prioritizing Israel? He can't answer that question, so he wants to move on. It is constantly this effort to manipulate you into focusing your life and your attention on whatever they decide to press their thumbs down on. And it's not right. And that is my belief. I am a Christian. Of course, I'm going to use my Twitter feed. I'm going to dedicate my Twitter feed to things that are of interest to me. That is my right. I'm also an American. And I recognize when we look around that Americans can't afford gas, they can't afford groceries. And why can't we? Because, well, we have the media convincing us that it is our job to be enslaved economically to the borders and the interests of everybody else but ourselves, but our families. And I don't stand for that. So what does he do? He moves on to, of course, what I also expected, trying to paint and accuse everyone of being a conspiracy theorist. What I instantly did is I threw it right back at him, because as we all understand, as we are living in this post-mainstream media world, they are the conspiracy theorists. How many times has the mainstream media tried to effectively sell us something, only for time to pass and us to realize they were lying about everything? And when they're caught lying about everything, they just try to backtrack. And remarkably, I said to Piers, yeah, no, you peddled the BLM and the race conspiracy theories, and then you backpedaled. You peddled the COVID conspiracy theories, and then you backpedaled. And he didn't like that so much. No. He tried to backpedal even further. Take a listen.
So do not take my one clarification about the ability of a vaccine to prevent transmission as being some great mea culpa.
Hold up. Did he really call lying to millions a small clarification? Let's not forget, people were treated like pariahs for not lining up for those shots. Candace is going to shut him down with cold facts. People died from the vaccine, blood clots and miscarriages. This is where the debate takes a turn, and Piers loses control. He shifts uncomfortably, tries to change the subject, but it's too late. Candace lands the knockout punch.
That I think
that's a huge mea culpa, Piers. That's a huge mea culpa. That's a huge mea culpa, because that means that you want people to go out and to get an experimental vaccine in their arm and encourage them not to listen to independent voices that were saying, hold on. That's a huge mea culpa. People died from the vaccine. So you're talking about people that died from not getting it. There have been scores of people who died from the vaccine. There have been scores of people like my grandfather who got the vaccine and then were dead within 1 year because it led to their dementia suddenly spreading or advancing rather in a way. Stop. I let you
You do not know that was down to the vaccine, do you?
Okay. First and foremost, they have admitted so much. They lied about the 6 feet social distancing. That just came out 2 weeks ago. And you were on the side of all of these people. So don't pretend that that's a small mea culpa. People died from blood clots pertaining to the vaccines that you were telling them to rush out and get, okay?
People died
had they have waited and perhaps listened to independent voices who understood that there was some government... No, I let you talk. I let you talk about your mea culpa. Had they have paused and listened to independent voices who have, I think, probably a greater strength when it comes up to standing up to government initiatives, because we recognize that the government is not our friend, and we recognize that the government is not trying to save our lives. Maybe those people would be alive. Maybe my friends who had miscarriages and my friends who were saying that it was impacting their menstruation until the government was ready to admit that 7 months later. If you had listened to people that were telling you their own experiences, someone I know that went completely blind in one eye because of some weird ocular clots. So don't pretend that's a small thing. I just want to say, I'm happy to accept that you've changed your mind.
Let me respond.
But don't pretend it's a small thing. People died from the vaccine.
Let me respond.
And by the way, I want to be clear for people watching this. He's saying still get it. I'm saying still don't. Just so you can hear a different opinion. Do not allow the government to put that in your arm.
Okay.
God's system works. The government is not fixing you in any regard. Honestly, he didn't know what to do with that. I mean, they are so used to being able to spike the ball. The experts, that's actually how he began it. I should have showed you that portion as well. But he starts talking about how the experts, confirmed, and the scientific studies confirmed. And he's just making a small mea culpa. He went out and told everyone to go get the vaccine because he thought, as he says, that it would stop transmission. And then he realized after the fact that it didn't. It was just a small mea culpa. A small mea culpa, telling people to roll up their sleeves and to inject something into their arm, just a small one, in which people had reactions to, in which they routinely lied. In fact, they treated us people who said don't get the vaccine like lepers. The people that did not want to get vaccines were treated like lepers. And he very much continues that if you want to go watch this full conversation when he starts pressing me in general about my perspective on vaccines. And I've been very clear. I'm not going to lie and run from who I am. I do not vax my children, okay? I have dedicated an entire show to diving into the history of vaccines, because what happened during COVID, the first time people woke up to the idea that an entire ecosystem can be telling you something that is untrue, that has been going on actually for a long time. And so my job is to give people information. And of course, his job is to pretend it's all a conspiracy theory until the conspiracy theory is proven true.
If you're watching it till the end here and nodding your head, Candace nailed it here. She refuses to let Piers control the narrative, calling out the lies that the media pushed without apologizing. By the end, Candace proves she's not afraid to tackle tough issues head on, whether it's Israel, vaccines, or the blatant media bias against Christians. Piers tried to ambush her, but all he did was expose his own contradictions. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more, and share this video with your friends and family. Let's keep exposing the hypocrisy and digging into the real issues. Until next time, stay sharp, y'alls.